Bill Moyers came to us probably 15 years ago with the idea, which later became a television series and a best-selling book called Healing and the Mind. It was a real turning point in the way people thought about the mind-body relationship in the context of health. And at the time he put this series together, Moyers was a real pioneer, and there was virtually no medical school in the country that was teaching alternative medicine generally, and meditation in particular. And he, with his usual brilliant reporting, pulled together the stories of how alternative medicine was really changing the landscape below the horizon at the time he did the series. But he encouraged us to support this series, he did, and we were supporting doctors and healing centers that were carrying this work forward. Perhaps the most prominent one who was featured on the Moyers series was a man named John Kabat-Zinn, who was at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center and introduced something which he called mindfulness-based stress reduction. And that was a kind of a meditative skill. He was teaching people who were suffering from chronic pain how to use meditation and other mindfulness-based stress reduction techniques to deal with their pain and to manage it. And how people who are suffering from cardiac disease could reduce their risk by regularly practicing meditation. Moyers analyzed Kabat-Zinn's work. Kabat-Zinn's work in subsequent years has become a widely practiced part of medical training and what goes on in hospitals across the country to deal with the stress of illness, stress related to cardiac disease, and other areas where it arises. Interestingly, while this has been going forward, the kind of scientific evidence which you mentioned has also been developed. There's been the most extraordinary use of the most sophisticated kind of brain scan technology to show how meditation works on the mind. It's not just a kind of an Eastern practice which makes people feel better. What magnetic resonance MRI imaging has shown is that meditation actually changes the function and the structure of the brain physiologically. The structures of the brain appear different for people who have been meditating and people who haven't. So the skeptics who just said, well, this is a kind of an Eastern fad, are now starting to recognize that there's something really important here. Yeah. The possibilities here in the medical field we've talked about. Also, people are starting to think about including periods of meditative training for small children, particularly in connection with attention deficit disorder. Because here, meditation is a way of training attention. Yeah, yeah. And for children who have been spent too much time in front of television sets, they need a retraining to help them to focus and to be attentive over a period of time. And that's the possibility that that early work suggests going forward.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.